We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Hi, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Delighted to say I'm joined by a good pal of mine, Matty from the Magpie Channel. How are you, Matty?
Hello, mate. Very well. Very good. Thank you. Cheers for having us, Steve.
Yeah, great to see you, mate. Great to see you. And we've crossed paths many times outside St James's Park, in bars, at my events as well. It has to be said over the years. And we've always kept in touch with what each of us are doing. And to be honest, I think watching your show is probably one of the few podcasts that I watch. I dip into Adam Pearson's quite a bit. I watch your, especially your Vox Pops. I always find those fascinating outside the ground, especially, pre-match, after match. It's always good to hear what people have got to say. But yeah, big follow of your work. So it's nice to be able to, in a season where I've decided to maybe collab with a few people. It's nice to get you on, mate.
No, thanks very much, mate. It's good to be here. It's been a while, because I remember years back, man, before the COVID times, and when I first started the channel, we did the Kevin Nolan stuff together, and that when Shearer's bar was 9 bar at the time, actually. Best not telling you on that, actually. But since then, we've seen each other now and again, so it's good to get a collaboration on the go, mate.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Just to get a bit of background, I guess, first of all, about you, yourself. What was your first Newcastle game, Matty?
First Newcastle game was 8-0 over Sheffield Wednesday back in 1999, mate. 98-99 season. Sir Bobby Robson's first game back at St James's Park as manager. Shearer scored 5. Unbelievable. And I used to always say it went downhill until then, but not anymore. Not since the takeover. We're back on the up now. I'm waiting for an 8-0. We're close with Spurs last season, but I'm waiting. It's coming.
Yeah, you can feel it, can't you? You can feel it. We'll come to that in a bit. Just want to talk a bit about the channel. So the Magpie Channel, I mean, the name speaks for itself. But where did the idea come from? Why did you decide to go into podcasting and creating content?
Well, you mentioned the fan cams yourself there, and that's how the Magpie Channel predominantly started. I mean, I've only been taking the channel seriously for about 2 years now, a year or two. But I mean, 5 years ago was when I decided to start the fan cams, just picking the public, the two fans after the game for their thoughts on the match that had just happened at St James's Park, and then some away games as well. And I started because, well, back then nobody else was doing it. Do you know what I mean? Now you'll go to St James's Park, you've got about 10 people trying to interview the fans after the game. Loads of different YouTubers popping up left, right, and centre these days. But back then nobody was really interviewing the fans. You see, like online, you see like the Arsenal fan TVs, and Man United had full-time Devils and things like that, where they were capturing the fans' opinions after the game. And I thought, why is nobody doing that for Newcastle United? So I just literally borrowed a camera, bought a cheap crappy mic, and went outside St James's Park and started interviewing the fans. And that's how it started. And it's just evolved to today, where it's daily news videos, match reactions, everything.
Just starting off, it's got to be a little bit daunting. I mean, you had the balls to go and do it, which is a big thing. But then to actually get outside the ground, how were you received?
All right, to be fair, mainly it was all right. I think when I first started, it was at the start of the season. It would have been Rafa's last season, I think it was. It was played Spurs at home, first game. Sun was shining. Everyone was in a good mood, as such, as good as you could be. And everyone was pretty decent, to be fair. No one was that aggressive. Like, if someone didn't want to speak to us, they would just say, oh, no, you're all right, mate. I remember speaking to Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV about it when he first started. Everyone was saying, like, telling him to F off and who the hell do you think you are and stuff like this. I never got anything like that. Everyone was pretty sound, but you're right, it was daunting. Like, I was absolutely crap myself the first time I went to it. I had to have a few pains for a bit of courage, to be honest with you, before the game to speak up again, because I'd never been in front of a camera before. I'd never interviewed anyone before. None of this was my background. It's always something I liked and I dreamt of doing. But I never went to uni and did it, or I never practiced it. I just decided to do it one day and went for it.
Amazing. So it was your love of Newcastle United, I guess, that drove you to it, and obviously seeing those other fan cam ideas around the clubs, that set you on your way. So, I mean, did you start off as a one-man band? Were you doing the interviews outside the ground and then editing them and uploading them?
Still, I'm a one-man band, unfortunately, mate. That's why I'm stressed all the time and busy. I need to bring people in. That's the goal next year, I think, hopefully. But it all started off with just me and one of the lads, me and my mate. We started off. He was the cameraman. He at the start, to be fair, he did a bit of the editing. But then I took over the editing, so I learned how to edit and everything myself. And then I started doing the editing. I've always ran the social medias, done the graphic designs, the thumbnails. And then obviously all the YouTube stuff as well, like the filming. And now I do everything: filming, editing, producing, socials, the lot. And it's a lot. Like it's so much work, man. But you get over what you put in.
You do, and I guess I'm pretty much the same in a lot of ways. If you want a job doing properly, you do it yourself. That's not being arrogant. It's just sometimes you've got your own standards, especially for a brand that you've set up yourself. And sometimes if you take your eye off the ball, then maybe it can drop below the standards that you've created. So sometimes it is best just doing it yourself, Matty.
It is, because to be fair, it was Billy who used to do the editing, but for me, he was taking too long. Like, you won't mind us saying this, but he was just. He wasn't like how much I wanted it to be out there and done and passionate. Don't get us wrong, he tried in that, but he was just like, oh, I'll do it after me tea type of thing. I was like, nah, I want it done now. So I was like, I'm going to have to learn how to do it myself, because I like, as much as it is a burden having all that responsibility, I like the responsibility, because if something goes wrong, it's my fault. I don't want to be pointing the finger at anyone else. At least if I'm not happy with something, it's on me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can understand that. So, I mean, did you do this with an aim, with a goal to potentially get into a career in media? You said, by your own admission, you haven't had any training. It's not something you'd ever done before. It was daunting because you've never been in front of a camera. But is it a career goal that you have in mind? Is that evolved certainly over the last couple of years when you've taken it a bit more seriously?
It's definitely evolved, and I'm nearly there in terms of what I'm up to at the moment. And when I first started, I thought if I can get to like 20% of what Arsenal Fan TV is, because they're in the millions, do you know what I mean? If I can get 20% of that, I can at least be making a wage that I'd work in a call centre. I was like, if I can get to that point, I'll be all right. But it was more so just a hobby to start with. And then I liked the idea of running with it, being my own boss. But then the dream was always to be like a TV presenter or like on Sky Sports. That was always the dream. So when I was sick of, we're fast forwarding a bit, but when I was sick of doing YouTube a couple of years back before the takeover, I was close to giving it up in the sense of trying to do it full time. I would probably still make one odd video here and there, a match reaction sort of thing. But I thought, I'm sick and tired of talking about how crap you are every week. How many times can I say Bruce is useless? Do you know what I mean? What's the point? So I was like, I'm bored of this now. Like many Newcastle fans were, like people who have given up the season tickets and everything. I was one of those where I just thought I've had enough. So I went down to Southampton, did a master's degree in broadcasting and journalism, because I had a bachelor's in sports science from Newcastle. And then I was going to move down to London and do work then. And then the takeover happened and that changed everything. Moved back to Newcastle, tried to do this full time. But in the past couple of months, I've actually signed a deal now with Sky Sports where I'm a freelance reporter.
Brilliant. So well done.
Thanks, mate. I covered the Newcastle United women's game at St James's Park. So I do bits and pieces here and there. So that hopefully on the right steps to to doing that more and then just keep building the channel?
I think that in itself, for any youngster watching, I mean, our channel, to be honest, is an older demographic. We do have a few youngsters who tune in, I'm sure, but I think it's an example of how hard work can actually pay off, Matty. You know, and it's something which I've obviously tried to pass on to many people over the years. I think you were surprised when we were chatting a while back about you know, how I started out. You know, my journey was the football fanzine originally, you know, back in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, boomer fanzines. And then when Sky took over football, my introduction to TV and media was via that particular route. And you know, and probably for the best part of 20 years, I was the person who Newcastle fans used to groan about, oh no, there he is again, he's on TV. But I was available, Matty, and it's about putting yourself out there and making yourself available. And I guess as well, it does help if you can string a sentence together, Matty. But you've got to work hard. You know, not, you know, and when you're in front of a camera, you've got to be able to, you know, get your message across sometimes without dragging the point and without swearing as well, Matty.
Yeah, which I learned massively, to be fair, because when I first started, I was a bit probably too Raj, shall we say, in the sense that it was a bit. Yeah. People liked that at the start though, because it was different. I was literally just, our videos were always like in the strawberry or whatever, and it was just very much X-rated, just like in your face, bold, swearing. And then there's at times where you look back and I cringe at that now. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, some of my videos will still be like that. Sometimes I will still rant, but it has to be an occasion, not just for the sake of it. And I think that you've just got to, I wouldn't say you know, you can't lose who you are, but you've got to realize what you should be seeing, because like you say, there could be kids out that's YouTubing it. Someone could be 7 years old watching it, so just think about that as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the other side to it is as well, that when you put something out there, it's out there. People can clip things now, people can take things, and you do have to be careful. I think I've learned on numerous occasions over the years, you do have to be careful, you know, not only, you know, stuff that you put out there yourself, but stuff that can be clipped. It's a nightmare, and it can come back to haunt you, and I guess there's lots of people can suffer from that. I think the first time I realised that YouTube was an avenue to potentially put yourself out there and get your point out there was probably the True Geordie, Brian, who, you know, when, you know, he started off and talk about someone going Raj. I mean, he used to literally just come on and do 6-7 minute rants about Newcastle and the owner, and they went viral. I mean, it was a clever bit of marketing which got him to where he wanted to be. And I mean, now he sits there as one of the biggest podcasters, you know, not just in the UK but in the world. So I guess he was a bit of a forerunner for people like you and me.
He was. I mean, I looked at him. I actually messaged him when I first started the channel, asking him for any advice and stuff, because he is someone that I took inspiration from as well. Like I mentioned, Arsenal Fan TV regarding the fan comments, but I seen True Geordie doing it. I seen him doing so well, and I was thinking, well, if he can do it, why can't I do it? Do you know what I mean? So he was in the prime position though. Like his timing was perfect. This was when he's been in the game like 12 years or something now. Like YouTube was. It's so saturated now. I mentioned the amount of Newcastle United YouTube channels there is now. Even back then, there wasn't that many football channels when True Geordie started. So he was right at the beginning of it. And to be fair, he worked his arse off. You know, he deserves every bit of success he's had. And to see him become a millionaire from starting off on I remember he said, you know, he started off on an iPhone on an ironing board about that Nile Ranger rant, to go from that to interviewing Ricky Gervais, Tyson Fury, you name it, the biggest names in the world. And everything else he does now, fair play to the bloke.
Yeah, definitely a case of, you know, work hard and you know, you will get to your end goal. I mean, moving forward for you, you mentioned, you know, you've signed that contract now. I mean, that must have been a big buzz for you. I've noticed, particularly with your channel, that you've given a lot of time to the women's football team this season, and you know the news that they have now gone full time, gone professional at a lower league than maybe people would have expected that to happen. It's been great progress. Now we've spoken about the women's football team on the year, but we don't like to go out and cover the club and stuff. We do things slightly different on NUFC Matters. We're more of a reaction channel rather than anything else. But give us your insight into how that's gone. It's been a fantastic season, hasn't it?
Unbelievable season. I think it was typical in Newcastle United fashion that they're waiting until the last day to get promotion, pretty much. You know, it was like biting your fingernails. It was never going to be easy, but I think they did really well because the pressure was entirely on them. Everyone thought, well, they've got to go up now. They're getting all these fans at St James Park. compared to Durham Sestra, who were in the race for promotion with us, who get a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand max. You know, we were getting 30,000 at St. James's. The eyes are on them. The takeover, the pressure, bringing in players from America and stuff, and Gibraltar, like Charlie Ann, you know, they brought in a lot of players, and the pressure was there. So it's not always easy when, you know, that's on you and you're expected to lead from the front. But they did well, and I'm delighted with the news that they've went full time. I think it's fantastic. It's great from the club to be able to offer these lasses a full-time job doing football. What a dream it must be for them, because in the previous regime under Mike Ashley, they had to buy their own kits. Do you know what I mean? They had to pay for training and pay for their own kits, and now they're getting paid a decent salary to be full-time. And it's only going to go up from here, just like the men's side of things, and hopefully the academy and everything else, because the investment and the interest in the women's game, they're going to continue to strive. And I know head coach Becky Langley's already spoke about the aim for next season is promotion again. So we're trying to do Kevin Keegan all over again now and trying to jump up the leagues. So this is what we want to see.
I mean, you've spoken to Becky, you've spoken to the girls, you know, who play for the team. I mean, is it a bit of a pinch themselves moment for some of those local lasses who were probably there when they did have to buy their own strips?
It is. It definitely. Even when they're playing at St. James's, when we interview them right afterwards, you know, we're pitch side and you can see them still looking around and they're just in awe. And I don't think it's really sunk in that they've just scored at the Gallagher, or because they go to the matches. Like I've seen a lot of them at Trafalgar Square for the men's Carabao Cup final. You know, that a lot of them were down there partying with the rest of us fans in Trafalgar Square. So it's class to see that. We need to keep that as well. I hope we do keep that. Obviously, when you rise, some of them are going to have to leave. But I hope they still keep a good core of the local lasses in there, because they definitely get what it means to play for them. And that's why they're always performing at St. James's Park. And I think because they've got all the friends and the family in the stands.
I think it's a big thing as well that the owners, and Amanda and Meerdad in particular, have concentrated a lot of effort on the women's team. And I think that's the beauty of the new ownership, that they make a promise and they stick to it. And, you know, it's been great to see Amanda, you know, her rallying call, you know, in the dressing room and popping down to see the girls at St. James's Park and making herself available at, different games. It's just been class to see that, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, for her to spend her Sundays when we go to the games at Kingston Park, and there's still 2,000-3,000 there, which is brilliant, especially for what at the time was fourth tier. But to see them spend their Sunday, and sometimes you see Dan Ashworth there. Do you mean Dan Ashworth? He's up there watching the ladies play. You know, it's a brilliant commitment, and you can see that they're not just doing it for show, because they could easily just sit at home and then turn up once a year at St. James's. Do you know what I mean? So for to be there pretty much week in, week out, spending the afternoon. I'm sure they're busy enough as it is, but spending a good few hours, and they're always taking times out to get pictures with the kids and the face painting and all that. So it's amazing to see the connection.
No, it definitely is. We'll wish them all the best for next season. I guess as well, just final question on the women is that, you know, the step up. I mean, you know, we know that, for example, if Newcastle were in the Championship and they were promoted to the Premier League, they would need to spend a lot of money to try and compete and stand still, never mind try and progress in the Premier League. Is the jump that the women's team have made, is that a significant jump, and will there need to be big investment, Matty?
There will be. I think the retained list, you know, there was quite a few that's been let go this summer already. So I think there'll be, I wouldn't say a near on start 11, but at least a good 4, 5, 6 big recruits need to come in who are ready for that league. I think you'll see some serious signings there, because we can tempt players here who might already be Division 1 players. They might take a drop to Division 3 for Newcastle, because, to be honest, they're still going to be playing at St. James's Park a couple of times a year, where they're playing in front of more fans than they would for their club in Division 1. So, you know, you'll see players coming to us, big name players, big expectancy on those to do well. And then, yeah, I think like Becky said and Amanda said, the aim is promotion again. So they're going to have to invest. And it's not going to be easy, though, because that league is a lot tougher. We've seen the team that came up last year struggle in that one. So it won't be easy, but we'll see how they get on over the summer.
Yep, wish them all the best. Getting on to the men's team. I mean, what a season that was. You know, to go from the Great Escape season to a season where a lot of us were excited and looking forward to, you know, not being involved in a relegation battle, but to have a cup final. And to finish in a Champions League spot was beyond our wildest dreams, wasn't it?
It was. Like, I mean, I just when you see it back there, it still doesn't feel real, mate. It really doesn't. I don't think the Champions League feels real until we actually start playing in it. until the group stage draw is done, and until we get that sense and that feeling of the home nights at St James's and the away trips to wherever it may be, it's not going to feel real for me. It hasn't really sunk in. And last season just seems like a blur. I mean, the run that we went on and at the end and sealing Champions League, outrageous. Obviously devastated we couldn't get the win at Wembley, but to be in a cup final after 20 odd years and to be in the Champions League after 20 years, only a year or a full first year after the takeover, it's just nuts. Absolutely nuts, really.
It is. Yeah, it is. I mean, I didn't think Newcastle would finish in Champions League. I've got to be honest. I think I predicted a 7th place finish. I was optimistic, and I wanted a good cup run. I don't think I was brave enough last season to say that we were going to get to a cup final. But yeah, I mean, it was a remarkable season. I mean, I guess your favourite players are going to be the same as most people who watch this channel. But who was your standout performer last year?
Joe Linton for me. Obviously, there's loads you could pick. I thought Botman had a brilliant debut season in the Premier League. I thought Isak, even after a 3-month layoff, was amazing. Obviously, Bruno again, Trippier, leadership. But Joe Linton for me, because yes, we can see all the midfield enforcer and he does all that, but his goals and assists last year have been slept on as well. Like his goal contributions were really up there as well. And when he got put out on the left flank, on the left forward position, he was doing well there. He offers so much, and to see him now scoring for Brazil, what world are we living in? Like literally, what has happened? You know what I mean? If we had done this show 2-3 years ago, we would have been locked up. Seeing that Newcastle were going to be in the Champions League and Joe Linton was scoring for Brazil, people would have locked you up straight away. So it's a remarkable turnaround. He sums us up, doesn't he? He sums Newcastle United up in the last season or so. Since the takeover, he epitomises Newcastle's takeover. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you're not going to get many arguments of anybody on here. I think Joe Linton stands out massively. And I think, Steve Nixon, who I did drop an email to and apologise. I just simply said, what do I know about football, Steve? You were right. I was wrong. An amazing turnaround. And as you say, what a buzz to see him and Bruno, starting alongside each other in the Brazilian national team. Quite fantastic. Callum Wilson came into his own as well, didn't he? At the at vital times of the season when at times some of the media had written him off, and he just seemed to be going through a bad run. But what a season he had in the number 9 shirt.
Unreal, best yet. 18 goals. Again, that gets kind of forgotten about in a way because of how well we've played and the influence of the big name signings. But Callum Wilson scoring 18 goals when, again, in and out of fitness, more so around after the Winter World Cup, he struggled a bit, didn't he? I think he went nearly 10 games without a goal or something, and then he came back and he was just scoring every week. What I like about Wilson is he can come off the bench and make an impact, and you can't put a price on that. You really can't. And for me, the critical thing is Alexander Isak signing. It gave Callum Wilson the kick up the arse that he needed, because under the previous regime, there was no pressure on anyone. No matter how bad you played, no matter how many games you went without scoring or whatever, you were going to get picked every week because there was nobody else. As soon as Alexander Isak came in, Wilson was like, oh, what that? I'm the number 9. I'm getting dropped here. I'm on the bench. What? I don't want to be on the bench. So every time he came off, he knew he had to make an impact. He knew he had to score a goal. And he was doing it so many times, just one chance header back of the net, peeling away. Do you know what I mean? We got used to seeing it. And that's what I want to see. And it's so good to have that number 9 scoring that many goals. I think he was scored the most goals as a striker for Newcastle in like over a decade or something. Like, not many people have done it. And hopefully he carries on with it next season. I think getting in the England fold has really gave him a new lease of life as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The highlight for me as well was Newcastle's back four. Much maligned over the years. We haven't got a decent defence. We've always had decent goalkeepers, but we've always had somebody dropping us in it. Whereas we just had a superb, defensive unit. Start with Trippier and then go across the centre half positions. Fabian Schär, somebody who was written off under Steve Bruce, it has to be said. Sven Botman comes in, who we chased relentlessly and finally got one man. And then the guy from Blythe, Big Dan Byrne, who quite an unorthodox left back, but who, you know, won the fans' hearts and has been an absolute legend. And, you know, with Nick Pope behind them, it just never looked, you know, at times that we were going to concede any goals. And again, for you and I, you know, I mean, I go back to 83, 84, you go back to that, you know, that 99 season, but it's not something we're used to, is it, having a good back four?
Nah, never. I mean, I grew up watching Boomsong and Bramble, so now to have Botman and Cher is just something else, mate. I mean, when we signed, you know, Nick Pope, nobody batted an eye, and everyone was like, "Oh, Nick Pope, he's not much better than Nebraska, is he?" You know, I mean, why we're getting Nick Pope? £10 million. Nobody else wanted him. Everyone talks about Newcastle's revolution. Nobody else. It's not like we had to feed off everyone else to sign Nick Pope, and not a single other Premier League club tried to sign him. And then he got the joint most Premier League clean sheets last year. So that speaks volumes again about Steve Nixon and the guys behind the scene, I suppose. And then the back line, you know, the pursuit of Botman was a long saga. Thankfully, he chose us over AC Milan, and hopefully he's here for the next 10 years. Hopefully he's our, you know, spine of our defence for the next 10 years, because he's such a player. At this age as well, your first year in the Premier League, he looked like he'd played there all his life. And then, like you said, big Dan Burn at left back, the most unorthodox looking left back the world has ever seen. But because he's in black and white, I think he goes that extra mile. And for him to get his goal against Leicester was amazing. I was buzzing for him. But just every week, you know, I know he's not maybe the easiest on the eye. Maybe, you know, you want someone who's a bit more technical and get behind the last man and whip a ball in or whatever. But he does his job superbly well. And I think it's vital to have people like him in the dressing room for not only the laughs and the dancing, but to understand the culture and understand the city and the fans, and they get how much it means. And Fabian Schär, you know, over 30 now, couldn't get a game on a Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce was picking anybody instead of him. Do you know what I mean? Lejeune, a lot, he was picking everyone ahead of Shaw. And look at him now. What a year.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, before we go to the ad break, let's just talk a little bit about Eddie Howe. You know, was he your choice? Would you know, when you were sitting there and the takeover had gone through and the dust had settled and you knew Steve Bruce was going out the door, you know, and you heard Eddie Howe's name, were you thinking, yeah, that's a great choice? Or were you a little bit reluctant? Were you thinking of a bigger name?
To be fair, I wasn't. No, I was very happy with Eddie Howe. I know a lot of people did put out there and say, "Oh, that's underwhelming." It wasn't for me. I said he was massively underrated. To take Bournemouth from League Two to the Premier League, and the proof's there. I'm not just lying now. You can go back.
Go back and watch your channel.
Yeah,
well, that's a bonus.
That's the thing. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of bad things about having the videos out there. People can go back and take the piss out of you. But thankfully, on this one, it was one of the things I did get right. So yes. I did say, you know, Eddie Howe would be a fantastic appointment. Took Bournemouth from nothing. British manager of the decade and all that stuff. But I will be honest with you, I did choose Emery. When we were linked with Emery, if you had have offered us both at the time, I still would have chosen Unai Emery because he'd won European Cups. You know what I mean? So I still would have chosen Unai Emery, but I wasn't one of these where they said, "Oh, what, Eddie Howe? Nah, no way, he's going to get relegated. What? He's done nothing. He never won a cup. He's never done this." And I suppose next season will be very interesting to see how he gets on in Champions League. I mean, Eddie Howe himself has said he's never even watched a game of Champions League football live. He's never even been to a live game. So for him to now be managing them in the flesh against the biggest and best coaches and players will be a real test. But he's had his first cup final out of the way. I'm sure you learn from that. And I'm expecting big things from Eddie Howe. You know, we've seen on and off the pitch how good he's been. I think it was a blessing in disguise. Unai Emery turning us down and staying there at the time. But he's went to Villa and he has done a very good job, and he is a very good manager. But I just think Eddie Howe, and it's fitting Newcastle very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. We will, watch his progress with interest. We're halfway through the show. We'll have the ad break. We'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. Click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99, or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, nufcmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is underway. 150 tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10, and you can get them now from nufcmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from nufcmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and friends. The class of 84 is on at the Town Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Town Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000. Okay, welcome back to the second half. I've got Matty on from the Magpie Channel, and just going to talk about a couple of other things which have been in the news in Newcastle over the last couple of months. Ticketing. It's not everyone's favourite subject, Matty, but unfortunately with success comes, demand for tickets. And long gone are the days when Mike Ashley had to give away 10,000 tickets to Newcastle fans. We now need an extra 15, 20, 25 minimum at the moment for people waiting to get in. What's the solution? What's the solution to this? Because I've seen, obviously, this last couple of days, there's been talk of, looking at potentially building on the East Stand, building over the top of the East Stand. We know that we could add to the Gallagher end. What would you like to see done? Would you like to see the ground extended? Do you think they should look at, the ins and outs of what they could do? Would you like to see a new ground? What's your feelings? I
think they have to extend it. It's a no-brainer now. It's got to be done. I mean, like you said, there's about 30,000 people waiting for a season ticket now. Do you know what I mean? They could literally fill an 80,000 capacity stadium, and that's before we've even really took off. Yes, we're in the Champions League next year, but when we start winning trophies 3, 4, 5 years down the line, and the global audience building, if I've got more people coming over from America and Africa and Asia, it's going to be ridiculous. There's not going to be enough room for hotels in Newcastle, and their main seats at St James Park. Do you know what I mean? We need way more. So it's good to see that the club are looking at avenues to do this. They're looking at the East Stand, like you said. They're looking at the Gallagher. It's got to be done. Every single aspect that can be looked into, extend it, make it as big as possible. And then I know some fans aren't going to like it because St James Park is very, historic. For me, best stadium in the world, location, the look of it, everything. But eventually, we're probably all going to have to move stadium. Unless they can build it above 80,000, they're going to have to, because the demand will be there.
Do you think a lot of it comes down to communication? The club have been good at that since the new owners came in. Do you think it's the way that you do it? I mean, Mike Ashley would have just said, right, we're doing this and that's that, and that gets people's backs up. But do you think as long as the club keep up the channels of communication and keep them open, that they're always going to, be able to at least, do certain things in a particular way and get the results that they want?
Yeah, because I mean, even the ticketing thing, they reached out to supporters and the certain groups, and had surveys and whatnot, instead of, like you said, Mike Ashley would have just been, right, well, your season tickets getting it, this is happening to it, whether you like it or not, tough luck. You know, since day one, they've been constantly in engagement with the fans and wanting communication, asking for their opinion. And it just makes sense. It makes sense to get everyone on the right side, because a lot of people are obviously heavily invested and passionate about this club. It's their life for a lot of us. Do you know what I mean? So if you feel like even you've got a little bit of a say by filling out a survey, it's better than just being told what to do, isn't it? It's better than a military standpoint, whereas this feels like you're involved and you have an opinion and you'll matter and that you're cared about, you know, and that's what these owners have done.
Ticketing, obviously, for the Carabao Cup, there was a few people left, you know, upset with the way that was done. I mean, I always struggle to find a way that you could keep everybody happy, Matty. That's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. You're never going to be able to please that. What else could they have done? I mean, just a ballot or something, or it just, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of other clubs, to be fair, wouldn't have this problem. You look at the FA Cup final, you know, Man City and stuff. Their fans aren't going to have this problem, but because of how supported Newcastle are in the area and beyond, like, we're going to continuously have this problem, and it's only going to get worse. Because, like you said, that there's going to be, in 5 years' time, there's going to be more supporters in London that want to go to finals compared to this year's Carabao Cup final. You know, so it's only going to increase. And you just look at it. I'm not sure what the club can do, to be honest with you. If how can you please everyone? Because it's not like you can go, right, 100,000 people in Newcastle. There you go. You can go to Wembley. Everyone is. It's not going to be able to happen. So I don't know what they could do. I really don't.
How do you feel about the loyalty point system? I mean, it's been in place for a long time now. You know, you've got lots of you've got a hardcore who have, you know, a lot of points, who would feel very upset if the loyalty system was taken away. But then on the other hand, you've got lots of people who, you know, haven't got any chance of getting a ticket for an away game, and they find it very, very, you know, very difficult. How do you feel about that? Is there a way, do you think, that they could change that?
I think they might have to actually bring in like a ballot system for that, because if you're wanting to go to the Bernabeu next season, if Newcastle draw Real Madrid in the group stages, most people haven't got a hope in hell. Most people will just be going over there to have a good time in Madrid. They won't actually be able to get inside the stadium, because it'll only be 3,000 or something max. You know, a few thousand seats. You've seen what they did the other against Man City, put them right in the top. Hardly any of them there. So how are you going to get into that unless you've been going to the games for 25 years, or you know somebody? You know what I mean? Are you going to get it through a connection, or your best mate's uncle, or whatever it is? You know, unless you've been going and you know somebody, you're screwed. Someone who's been going for the last 10 years probably hasn't got a chance in hell. So they maybe need to introduce, I don't know, 25% of the tickets or something towards a ballot. I know Manchester United do that. So Manchester United, for Champions League games at Old Trafford, they do have ballots where you just become a member, and then you can log onto the website and you can enter the ballot, and then it's drawn through that. So that gives other fans opportunities who don't have X amount of points. Maybe that's something they need to do, because I understand and respect the fans that have travelled across the world for all these years and do these pre-season tours, and they've been every FA Cup game middle of nowhere for 30 years. But a lot of them are just passing them down, because at away days you do see a lot of kids, and they've obviously been given the tickets, because there's no way that 17-year-old, these top offs, got 100 points for Brentford away. Do you know what I mean? So he's got it through somewhere. So maybe it is something to look at.
Yeah, it's so difficult. Tickets is always going to be a cross to bear for any club. And I mean, we have Melly Barnes comes on here. He's a lifelong Manchester United fan. He's a friend of the show, and he was telling us about, you know, how they do the Champions League tickets. And you know, there is ballots, and there is different ways. You know, you can't go to every game, for example. You know, once you've used your particular turn, if you like, for that particular game, if you've been lucky enough to get a ticket, then it's somebody else's turn. So I guess for those kind of competitions, you know, at least it gives a different set of supporters an opportunity. But you're right, what you said earlier, it's going to be a nightmare. You know, cup finals in particular, Carabao Cup finals, the one where you get the most tickets. So
exactly.
You know, FA Cup final and dare I say a Champions League final in the future, there's a lot less tickets, you know, and it's literally going to be a case of a lot of people just traveling to be outside the ground in the off chance they may be able to buy one outside the ground. But even the way that they're doing things now, I mean, I go to a lot of gigs, and Bruce Springsteen, for example. I was at Murrayfield. I'm going to Hyde Park, and you look at those two gigs in particular, and it's all on your phone now. They do not do any hard copy tickets. You have to get it. You even have to download a specific website at times to get this particular ticket, and it's there. And you can't use a screenshot. It has to come up on your phone. Technology's changing, and of course they're bringing that technology into Newcastle United now as well, which I know has got a few people petrified, especially people who watch our channel, because as I say, our channel is for slightly older viewers and slightly older fans. But change is imminent. It's going to happen. There is going to be a way for those people to still get into the ground, I think. But I think we've got to go with the times, haven't we, Matty? We've got to move with the times, unfortunately. And it will all fall into place and make sense eventually, I think, for supporters going to the ground.
I do hope for that older audience, so that if you can email the club or tell them that you're not happy with it, you still need a hard paper ticket, you still need your season ticket card, then they can do that. I think if you give your date of birth and you're over X age and you say, look, I'm clueless with smartphones, like my dad is, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't have a clue what to do. So let them at least it still reduces it by 75-80%. At least most, it means most of the ground can get in through the e-ticket system or whatever, but some of them can still use the old style, at least for the next year or two. But it is moving with the times. I was in Madrid last month and I went to an Atletico Madrid game. All of that was just emails, e-tickets, and that's the way it's going. And to be fair, it is better because you do get in quicker. There's less queues. You can get in quicker. But then again, if you're having Wi-Fi issues, 5G, 4G issues, it's one of them ones, and it's probably going to go wrong at the start. But the club are trying to do the right thing, I suppose.
Can't be any worse than VAR, Matty. That's for certain. Let's get back on to supporters and war flags, mate. I mean, we have been blessed with some very creative souls in our fan base over the years, and the guys and girls at war flags. Honestly, I always wax lyrical about them on here, but it's just fantastic. And I mean, I never thought in my living lifetime as a Newcastle fan I would ever find anything that got people into the ground earlier than 5 to 3 or just before kickoff, because we're creatures of habit. Everybody likes to have that last pint. But war flags has started getting people in 10, 15, 20 minutes early. And that part of the pre-match build-up has almost become a routine now, and people are they're in their place, they've got the flags. There's been some great displays, hasn't there? It's
unreal. And that cannot be underestimated as well. I mean, the impact that has on the players, and Eddie Howe spoke fondly of it. That's the first thing he does when he comes on the pitch, is looks to the Gallagher, see what the surfer is this week, see what the slogans are, the catchphrases, the designs, because like you said, they get so creative with it, man. And to mix it up like that, the Leicester one was amazing at the end of the season there. Obviously the Arsenal one, the last season before that. So excited to see what they've got in store for those Champions League nights, because we know how special they're going to be regardless of flags, but with the flags, with the atmosphere as well. There's certain times, when those flags, you can't say win us the game, but they definitely frighten the opponents, and they definitely give us a lift and give us a boost. And they go a long way. They really do. And every single one of them that helps with that. Because it's not just we see it on the match day, but they're doing it for weeks. They're spending the times after work, 8, 9 o'clock at night, they're there at St. James's Park doing the flags, getting the displays ready. And it is actually really impressive that people managed to get in the ground early. Like you said, like when they put it out and they say, "Oh, please be at your seats 15 minutes," you'd think it would just be a bunch of pissed Geordies falling over, but it's not. We actually make them look good, and the TV is in awe of them. Do you know what I mean? So shout out everyone that does it. It's unreal.
Yeah, keep it going, guys. It's fantastic. The club have got behind it. I mean, it's fan organised, fan funded, and I know the club have a great in Wembley to get involved, because obviously it was a massive undertaking that, and the club did help on that. But it's made by the fans, for the fans, paid for by the fans, and it's fantastic. And nobody's come close. There are some good attempts, shall we say, in the Premier League from other clubs. There's some pretty average attempts as well, it has to be said. But it's every bit as good as Anfield for me. Anfield's always been my favourite away ground to go to. Nothing better than, you know, standing as an away supporter, looking at the Kop and listening to them sing "You'll Never Walk Alone" and watching them wave the flags. But Newcastle now is equal to that, if not better at times. And we've got our own identity. You know, the giants are walking. I think that's the big thing to say, isn't it? It's you know, we knew it was a giant that if it was a walking would be monstrous, and that's where we're at now, Matty. It's amazing to be part of it.
Oh, it really is. I mean, it just bewilders me how Mike Ashley couldn't utilise his fan base. It really does. I mean, because War Flags stepped away, and you know, fair play to them. They were just like, "Nah, what we're going to do this for?" And a lot of that group decided not to go and stuff, and you can totally understand it. But just simple things like that, like how couldn't Ashley realise? I mean, the queues to buy this shirt the other week, 2.5 hours. Like, do you not realise what you could have done if you had just put a bit of money? Not even loads, just a little bit. You know what I mean? It blows my mind how he didn't see the potential, and now at least we're reaping the rewards, I suppose. War Flags back, and everyone's going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, definitely. I guess, you know, I always pointed out on this show that, you know, the United magazine that used to come out to season ticket holders was the magazine that Mike Ashley gave his very first interview, and it was an 8-page interview. I've still got it in the loft, Matty.
Nice.
And the paragraph that stuck out was, "I've bought Newcastle United to promote my sports brand globally." That was the paragraph, and that was the line, which, you know, he never lied to us. He told us right from the offset why he bought the club. Just people didn't choose to read that. You know what I mean? They didn't choose to look at it until it was too late. And, you know, it's in the past, and that's where it belongs. You've got the shirt on. I haven't bought mine yet, but I will be purchasing one. I like it. I think it's great design. We did have Badgegate, of course, which I mean, we've got the new front of shirt. Oh, you've got everything on.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it, mate. Look how beautiful it is.
It's a great shirt, isn't it? It's a little homage to the past. Castoria, for all the problems that we've seen publicised, have got this right again. Like,
oh, they have. I mean, you can't go wrong really with going down the retro look, and just because the whole hype the last couple of years has been buying the 90s shirts and all that, hasn't it? So you can't go wrong with this one, which is obviously homage to the 84 kit. Unfortunately, we can't have a blue star in the middle of it anymore, but I tell you what, Sellout is a lot better than Funny at 8, because look how much it just effortlessly blends into the shirt. You know, it's not a big blue, it's none of that anymore, so that's good. And yeah, I think they've nailed it, to be honest. They've nailed it. And everyone was whinging about the badge and stuff, but at least it's an embroidered badge. Remember where the sticker badges for years under Puma and under previous sponsors. So I'm a big fan of it, man. I think it's class. One of the nicest shirts in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got to see the away shirts, lots of rumoured tops flying around the internet. We would imagine we will have a green top of some description. We're going to have, a lot of rumours saying we're going to have the blue and yellow, which I think was very popular last year. I mean, I quite like the green, and I think, when you've got 80% shareholders are from Saudi Arabia, then why not?
Yeah, why not? You know what I mean? Let them do what they want, if you ask me. They can have green. They can have green all they want. Do you know what I mean? So I don't mind the green. I thought last year's kit was lovely, the white and green one. And if they want to just rotate between that, green and white, and then make a predominant colour, this year's design looks a bit out there. If it's the leaked one, with all the patterns on it and stuff. But if they're going to invest in this football club and the direction we're going, they can have any colour kit they want, as long as they keep the black and white stripes. That's the main thing. The away kit, do what you want with it. Make it pink and green and bronze. I don't give a shit. As long as we're buying good players like we are, and we're moving in the right direction, you can do what you want.
Nice segue into players. Tonali is literally a done deal, and by the time this show goes out, probably will be announced as a Newcastle United player. Can't kid you, I knew very little about the guy until his name was, mentioned a couple of weeks back. Watched with interest as this story developed, and have been very impressed with what I've seen on the internet, mate. He looks like a top player. And when you mentioned about, hopefully having Botman, at centre half for the next 10 years, this kid looks as if he's capable of doing exactly the same. It's another top signing.
It's outrageous. What a signing. What a sign it is. Literally one of the best midfielders in the world for me, especially on the young side of things in terms of his potential as well. I can't believe he's signing for us, because I can't believe he's leaving AC Milan. Now, obviously, there's been rumours in the Italian press, that he was crying at the thought of leaving Milan. He didn't want to leave and all that. I'm not too sure about that. But again, I kind of believe it in the sense that, he's a local lad. He didn't want to leave his hometown city and whatnot. And they just been to the Champions League semi-final. They won Serie A the season before. He was probably thinking, I'm all right, yeah, I'll a couple more years here, then I might move on. But if AC want the money, I mean, he was quick to accept the personal terms, wasn't he? So I don't think he's crying at the thought of 160 grand a week. So, it's not the end of the world, is it? Do you know what I mean? So I think with Tonali, we've got a serious player mind, because, I signed him. I'm a bit of a dork, mate, so I've played Champman and FIFA and stuff years, and he's a bit of a legend on there. He's one of them ones where he's a bit of a cult hero on there, and he is a real talent, a real player, and for us to get a hold of him, it's a big statement, like really big statement. I think a lot of teams around Europe, not just in England, will be looking and thinking, wow, he's going to Newcastle United. We need to keep an eye on that.
Fantastic. I mean, looking ahead and with your wish list in front of you, who would you like to see come? I mean, when the takeover first went through, Maddison was my number one choice before anyone really had mentioned it in, the world of the media or podcasts. People used to ask me, who would you like to see? I said, I'd love to see James Maddison. 3 windows in now. I'm sick of the whole thing. He's going to go to Spurs, and I don't think he would benefit coming to Newcastle now. I think if it had been 3 windows ago, I think we would have benefited, he would have benefited, and the rest would have been history. But as it goes, we ended up with Bruno, who has been absolutely superb, to the point where I actually got his name on the back of a shirt, which I've never done in years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, sometimes things just aren't meant to happen. So I mean, have you got a wish list as a particular player you'd like to see come? Obviously, a lot of names linked. So Boslai's the one. I think Diaby's another one that's been linked quite heavily in recent windows. Is the one or two that stand out for you? You say that's who I'd like to make Newcastle United's team next season.
See, with me, Steve, I was the same. More so last summer that I wanted Maddison as my number one. And then after the progress this year, and you look at our system, our state of play, I don't think Maddison would really fit now. I think he'd be more of a luxury signing. He's not someone who I would think we need him in our start 11. It's someone who I'd like to come in because, listen, his goal contributions are still brilliant for Leicester, always in double figures. Premier League proven, England international now. I think he would be a very good signing still, but he's not someone who I was super hyped up on like I was last year. For me, now when you look at it and the players that we're linked with, I think we will go in for Szoboszlai. I think he will be the elite signing that we're linked to getting, in terms of he will cost about £50 million again, probably. Hungary captain, young lad, doing bits over there in the Bundesliga. He's more of an all-rounded midfielder as well, rather than Maddison, who's more of that number 10, which again goes back to, will he fit in our system? No. Szoboszlai can play as that 8, that 10, maybe even on the right further forward if you want him to. He can play in different roles, which obviously Eddie Howe likes, considering we're about to sign Tino Livramento, if you believe the press, a right back that we don't really need necessarily, but it's squad depth and he can play on the left. Szoboszlai, for me, would probably be the main target now, because that's what we need. I still think we need to beef up that midfield. Like, I know Sean Longstaff's had a great season. Joe Willock as well, brilliant before getting an injury. But if you're playing Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, we're going to need strength and depth. And we're signing Szoboszlai and Tonali, who have both played in the Champions League, been there, done it, both play for the country. So big signings, big potential, perfect ages, low 20s, going into the mid 20s. So Szoboszlai, when he comes in, and for me, I think we might have to, I know Chiesa's been linked, would be a very good signing. And the thing I like about Federico Chiesa from Juventus, the right winger, is that they can play across the front three. Because my worry is obviously Callum Wilson's fitness issues, and we've seen Isak get injured last year. So I think people are we've got no recognised striker apart from Wilson. Yes, Isak can play there, Isak plays on the left, whatever. But after them two, there's nobody. There's literally nobody. You've got Grant Koala, who's probably going to go out on loan again, and then we've got no other strikers on the books.
Thoughts about Anthony Gordon? I mean, he for the last 2 England games, under 21 games, he's played up front and he scored, of course, against Israel. Yeah. So there is potential there, but again, that's Lee Carsley's version of what Anthony Gordon's all about. It's not necessarily Eddie Howe.
Exactly. I mean, would Eddie Howe trust him as that? I mean, his goal scoring record in the Premier League is hardly prolific, is it? So, But he did play as a bit of a drop number 10 and even in midfield for Everton towards the end of his time there. So he can play in different positions as well. But it's going to be interesting to see what we're doing this window. I still think we'll make a good few more signings because with the Champions League, we need that strength and depth, and we need that left back as well. Whether Livramento is going to be the one way he comes in, or we're going to go back in for Kieran Tierney, or that Theo Hernandez link. That would be a dream one for me, but I think it's too unrealistic. It's too much money. They would want about 80 million. We're not going to pay that.
No, I don't think so either. But yeah, I'd like to see them going for a forward. There was rumours of them going back in for NTK, but I can't see that happening either. I think Newcastle will box it clever. I think they may feel that they've got enough to go into January with what they've got up front. But I think you're right. I think Szoboszlai is probably going to be the next body in. I'd love to see him come in. I think he'd make a big difference. I think then we've got a great back four if we get Livramento in as well. And we've got a good back four. We've got a good solid midfield with plenty backup, and we've got options. And a lot depends on what happens with the ASM. ASM. Again, injuries. Curtailed him last season, but he didn't score many goals, didn't give many assists. If he's going to stay, he's got to have to up his game, isn't he?
He has, and to be honest, I quite like the thought of Alan St. Maximin in the Champions League because he will suit that. I think, a St. Maximin away to the likes of your Lazios and your Borussia Dortmunds, he would thrive on that, I think. He'd be the perfect player for those type of situations, their style of play, a lot more than a Premier League game against Burnley. Do you know what I mean? He would do a lot better in those situations, but for me, it goes back down to Alan St. Maximin's consistency. One game he looks terrific. For the next 5 games, he looks hopeless. You can win your game one week, you can lose your game another week if he doesn't track back. So it goes back to that thing, like, is he right for Eddie Howe? Is he right for this system? The intensity is our identity. Well, he might have intensity in the final third, but he hasn't got it tracking back, has he? And as much as I love Alan St. Maximin, he's been brilliant for us for years, saved us in the very dark days. He was the only shining light, wasn't he? Let's be honest. Yeah. He single-handedly kept us up. To be honest, him and Dubravka maybe won us points. So it would be nice for him to get rewarded to get Champions League football. But I think if we get a good offer, say if he got 30 million for him and he could replace him, I'd be tempted.
Finish off just on next season then. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction of where you think we'll finish. It would be unfair because we've got transfer business to do. But what would be success for you next season? Especially with Newcastle hitting Europe for the first time in a long time, and obviously having to make changes to the squad, and they're going to have more games to play in a season. What would be success for you next year?
I would count a good Champions League run as success in terms of if you reach the quarterfinals of Champions League, if you want to get out of the group stages, want to experience it, because I see all these fans commenting on my video. I've got Arsenal, Liverpool fans. Oh, you're not even going to make it out of the group stages. What you're celebrating the Champions League for? Do you not understand that we're happy with 3 away trips for a piss up? Do you know what I mean? That's good enough for us. But that's fine with us. I'm happy to go to Madrid, not get a ticket, and get pissed on cheap beer. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't bother me. But if we can do well and shove it up the noses of those people and get to the quarterfinals and then get beat off of Barcelona, great. And then if we can stay in the league, if we're finished in the top 6 next year, I think that would be fantastic. I'll take this Champions League run, and then Liverpool, Chelsea are going to come back stronger. We know that. If we finish 6th next year, we've got Europa League again. And then am I being greedy, asking for another cup run? Am I being greedy to maybe ask for the FA Cup this time? Because that's the big one. That's the serious one. I probably am, because I'm not sure if we can have the squad. But the Carabao Cup, where teams, the big teams rest their players. We've seen if you get a good route to the final like we did, playing the likes of Southampton, Leicester, both relegated sides. We've got them in a quarter and a semi. If we can get a good run like that again, I think we could get Wembley again. So a good cup run, top 6, top 7, and get out the Champions League group stages. I think that would be successful. But I've said that out loud, and that's probably quite ambitious.
No, I think you're right. I think, to be honest, with those the extra games, I do think teams will come good. I think people write off the likes of Brentford, Brighton and Aston Villa at their peril because I think those teams will all be up for it again. Brighton obviously diminished slightly by losing McAllister and potentially might lose another player before then. They might be out of the running. I think Villa will give it another good go next year, but they will have European football, of course. West Ham, there's lots of potentials. The Premier League's a lot tighter than it used to be. But yeah, I think Newcastle will have another good cup run. Concentrate on the Carabao Cup. You win the Carabao Cup, the rest will follow. That's the way Man City did it. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, don't forget, top 5 gets you in the Champions League next year as well. So, you know, top 5 would be great. A good run in a cup. And I'd like to get out the group stages as well. I agree with you.
Is that starting from next year then? Is it, Steve, the fifth?
Apparently, yes. Yeah, apparently, yes. So next year, top 5 gets you Champions League.
I heard that, and I need to look into that because that seems too good to be true. So that would be fantastic if that was the case. Like, it
would be, yeah. I mean, a lot of people who are on this channel do believe that we're going to finish 4th anyway, 3rd and 4th. People think now that we're there, we're not going to give up that place. But it's exciting, man. It's exciting just to be even talking about it. You know, you just got to enjoy it. So what's ahead next season for the Magpie channel? More of the same? I mean, obviously, you know, you're doing a bit of freelance, so that's going to take a bit of your time. But what are you hoping to do with the channel?
Just really trying to be consistent with it, Steve. You know, keep at it with the daily uploads. We're going to be very busy. Want to go to every Champions League game, so some good European videos coming up there. Interview the fans over there. Get some good vlogs over there. Staying over there. And just keep pushing it and just following the roller coaster ride. Do you know what I mean? Just following Newcastle abroad, keeping up what we're doing at home, and a couple of other things in the pipeline. You know, maybe go down some other routes of some other content as well. You know, freshen things up a bit, but it's going to be very busy and it's very exciting and it's just a pleasure to cover it, mate. Like, it really is. Even just this, like talking to you about where we're going to finish 4th or 5th. Do you know what I mean? I said I nearly sacked it off 2 years ago because I was sick of saying where we're going to finish 20th or 19th. Do you know what I mean? So it's just turned on its head.
Yeah, it's mental. Okay, give a shout out to your channel. Where can people find you, Matty?
The Magpie Channel TV on YouTube, and then at the Magpie Channel on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, all of that.
Been an absolute pleasure, mate. Look forward to seeing you very soon. Keep up the great work, and we'll get you back on at some point, mate, when the season kicks off and get your views again. But thanks very much for your time, Matty. Take care, pal.
Pleasure, mate. Anytime. Cheers.